Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of Dingers and Stingers, the podcast that knows that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you sure can try if you think it'll help you make the playoffs.
Mhm.
We'll talk about Phillip Rivers returning to the NFL,
Old dog.
improbably. And we'll talk about that a little later. We will also talk about some teams and some players that have our attention, maybe some teams that and players that have flown under the radar this year that we feel have now put the league on notice. We'll take a swing by fan corner. We'll talk about some predictions for the next week, as well as review our predictions from the last episode we did. And we will also tell you guys what our dingers and stingers are for the week. Pack show. Before we get to all that, we will first, as we always do at the top of our NFL episodes, give you the winners and losers from week 14 in the NFL. Just a quick recap if you missed it. So here they are, the winners from week 14. The Lions, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Saints, Jaguars, Titans, Vikings, Bills, Broncos, Packers, Rams, Texans, and Chargers. The losers were the Cowboys, Falcons, Jets, Ravens, Buccaneers, Colts, Browns, Commanders, Bengals, Raiders, Bears, Cardinals, Chiefs, and Eagles. Womp womp. All right, so that is the quick, in case you missed it, recap for Week 14. Who won, who lost. Week 14, what did we think? What was the energy of Week 14 before we get into too many details?
Yeah, the vibe was interesting. I mean, there was a lot of teams put on upset watch this week, which I guess maybe isn't so unique. We've had a few of those recently, but yeah, it felt like um, I don't know. The top of the NFL seems to be settling in to kind of okay, these are the teams who are going to be making their runs. These are the teams who seem to be, kicking it into that next gear, heading into playoffs and kind of ramping up. But the bottom of the NFL, man, is intriguing. Like the bottom feeders of the league are making it very entertaining to watch. I saw a tweet earlier with it was showing like there's like 4 or 5 teams that are 2-11 right now, and it was saying like this is some of the most competitive tanking we've ever seen. Not that they're tanking actually, but it was just like there's some teams down at the bottom who I wouldn't have expected, and it's making it very intriguing because you look at teams recently who have had these big turnarounds, like Chicago, and obviously they're able to hire Ben Johnson. They got permission to invest into some new offensive line, stuff like that. There's external factors that are a part of it, but also having those high picks matters. I mean, they were able to get Caleb Williams, and then they were still in the top 10. They took Colston Loveland, and they were able to come back near the end of the first and get Luther Burden at like the first pick of the second round or second pick or something. And they're able to stack talent, and now you look at this team. It was just last week they were the first seed in the NFC, and they were the first pick in the draft the year before. And so how quickly these teams can turn around when it's done properly. And you start looking, New York Giants are down there. They've got they've got some good players in New York, and can someone come in and actually figure it out? We'll see. Um, but yeah, it's been an interesting end of the coming up to the end of a season. It's also crazy. We are almost done with football. That's still kind of killing me a little bit. That is crazy that we are heading into week 15 out of 18 regular season weeks, and then it's going to be playoffs. And in just a short few weeks, it'll have been a full year of dingers and stingers, which is
How about that?
insane to think about.
It's true.
Happy one year, fellas.
The world just keeps
Almost.
spinning.
Not.
Yeah,
Nope.
week 14, week 14 to me, it used to be um, you, back when we had the 16 game schedule, it's like once everyone plays 12 games, that's when it's crunch time. That's when shit gets real.
Mhm.
Now it's 17 games, so it's somewhere around week 14 or 15, 5 to 4 games left. That's what I was thinking this weekend. For the first time, I was really, really looking at the playoff scenarios and like,
Yeah.
what
Mhm.
teams need to beat what other teams and who am I rooting for in each matchup? Because I think until this point, I watch the NFL loose cannon vibes and I root for who I feel like rooting for. And now is the time where it's like, okay, wait, who should I be rooting for? Who like what do I need to be looking out for? So it's an exciting time of year. It makes this time more meaningful, of course, when you have a team in the hunt of everything. So it's fun.
Yeah,
No.
100%. We're getting there. We are getting to that point where, the season is coming down to it here. And, for a lot of teams, that means excitement. You're going to the playoffs. You're looking forward to seeing your team play. And for some teams, it means the end of the road. And about now is where we start to see some of those bottom feeder teams unfortunately come to the end of the road, in that they will not be going to the playoffs. And for those teams, we have a special segment that we will do every week from now until the end of the playoffs, basically, where we talk about which teams in the last week were eliminated from the postseason that week. So this week we have a few teams to talk about. I believe four additional teams were eliminated this week, on top of the ones that were eliminated before last week. So we're going to talk about those teams. We're going to give you, if you're not familiar with how we do this segment, we are going to give you the teams who have been eliminated. We will give you the cause of death, the reason why we think they couldn't make it happen this year. And then we'll also give those teams and their fan bases something to look forward to, because the great thing about sports and football in general is that there is always next season. So much to look forward to for some of these teams here. Hopefully we can give some positivity for the fan bases going in, but it is true, we are going to have to say goodbye to some. So let's start in Atlanta with the Falcons. They have been eliminated in week 14. So Drew has details on the Falcons.
Yeah, the Falcons are one of the more confounding teams in the NFL, because they have all these weapons, they have a lot of talent on their squad, and statistically middle of the pack in most basic categories as a team. And yet here they are among the first teams eliminated. They just are so inconsistent. I mean, they'll beat the Bills one week and then they'll lose 30-0 to the Panthers. Like they just don't really they're not consistent. They don't play well enough on offense. Quarterback play was a big part of it. This year, Michael Penix did not pan out the way they hoped, and then he got hurt. Kirk Cousins is a shell of himself. I think they might need to look elsewhere for their next quarterback. But the extra bad news on top of this, as Matt knows so well, is they don't even get their first round pick this year because they traded up last year at the draft. So the Rams have their first round pick. The Rams, who are a Super Bowl favorite, will get a Falcons first round pick. So that's the bummer. It is not going in the category of things you have to look forward to. But what I mean, you have Bijan Robinson. He's one of the best running backs in football. The defense, there were some encouraging signs on this defense this year. Similar to the offense, not consistent enough, but you can see some pieces falling into place on the next successful Falcons team. And I know this is the encouraging part, but I'm adding this in there. We've also felt this way for maybe the last few years, and it just
Mm-hmm.
hasn't come to fruition. So, we've seen the Falcons be successful in the past. It's a division that's relatively weak. They get a good quarterback, easier said than done, of course, but you get someone competent in that position, and there are a lot of things to like about this team moving forward.
Yep, I think they might be on the lookout for a couple of replacements at key positions. Quarterback is one, coach might be another. You never know. I didn't watch the full game of the Seahawks versus Falcons last week, but I saw the condensed game on the NFL app. Shout out to the app, but and watching them play, just they were playing very uninspired by the time the second half rolled around, and that is not what you want to see at this point in someone's coaching tenure. And so for the Falcons, it is over for you this year, but you can always look forward to next year. Bijan will be there, and he is exciting enough, to bring anybody back. And shout out to Kirk Cousins as well. Him and Russell Wilson hanging on from that 2012 QB class. Who will be the first to confess that it is over? I am not sure, but we'll see. All right, on the topic of Kirk Cousins, let's just switch gears and talk about his former team. Because the Washington Commanders, the team that played in the NFC Championship game last year, eliminated in Week 14 from playoff contention. Super tough year for the Fighting Dan Quinns. Matt has details on why the Commanders are not where they want to be.
Yeah. I mean, the answer's short, right? Cause of death for the Commanders this year, the word I put was death. Their team just keeps getting hurt. Like every single game, another core piece of this team gets hurt. The one constant this year has been 83-year-old Bobby Wagner. It's a team that was already coming into this year old and aging, which is ironic considering they have a second-year quarterback leading the team. But they just had a lot of aging pieces, and you know, Daniels goes out two separate times this year. He came back for 2 quarters this week and got knocked out again. Marcus Mariota has played hard as he always does, but he's not necessarily a quarterback that's going to get you there all the time. And Terry McLaurin, after all the offseason drama and stuff, he ends up being injured for the majority of this year. Deebo Samuel's been beat up. Zach Ertz just tore his ACL. That defense, last year their big acquisition was Marshawn Lattimore. He's been out for a good chunk of this year. It just everywhere you look on this team, man. Yes, they were last year, they were in the NFC Championship. This is not the same team. Like, and granted, you can say that about every team. This is like the guys who were playing there last year are not playing this year because they are like all hurt. Um, and so, yeah, I think it's one of those things like they will hopefully get healthy. And, if they continue to have any, decent success in the draft and, playing with Jaden Daniels, I think has to have some allure. And there's something about playing in Washington, D.C. I feel like it's one of the more underrated cities in the NFL that like attracts players. There's like a certain grouping of players that really actually do like playing over there in Washington, D.C. And, this is a team that was in the NFC Championship last year and could easily be back there again. I mean, the NFC, as good as it is this year, a lot of the top teams feel very beatable still. And that's been exposed. I mean, take what happened in the Monday Night Football game last night. The Eagles were one of the best teams in the NFC, and they looked terrible. I mean, five turnovers for Jalen Hurts. Like it's just, I don't think that them going from worst to first next year, like they would be my going pick right now to be the worst to first in a division pick for going next year. It's I feel like I'm stumbling
Are
over
they
my words
behind
for
the
this.
Giants right now?
No, but they're right there. They are right there. Like the Giants could easily take over, especially the Giants getting a little bit healthier right now, outside of their two devastating injuries. They're getting a little healthier, and the Commanders just they are continuing to get more hurt. With 4 games left, if the Commanders go 2-2 and the Giants go 2-2, then I think the Giants would still take it, but the Commanders still play the Giants, I believe, coming up, and
Probably.
so they could easily fall below them, especially if they don't have anyone to put out there. I mean, I'm maybe the biggest Debo hater I know, and I'll tell you, he can't carry an offense. Like you can't just throw him out there, set up a bunch of screenplays, and he makes it happen. They're going to need that run game to kick in. They're going to need someone on defense to start making plays if they want to avoid being the top pick. Because at this point, there's not a lot of positivity when you're looking at their outlook for the next few games. It's a cooked season, truly.
Yeah, so for the Commanders, I agree with all that. Unfortunately, they just had some really bad luck this year on the injury front, and it exposed some issues that hopefully I think they were hoping to hide when it comes to the age of some of their main contributors. But we'll see how they turn things around next year. But for now, it is goodbye to the Washington Commanders. Next team up is, of course, the Cleveland Browns. They are out of playoff contention, so Drew has notes on the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, this is one man's mistake. This season on the Browns can be rested squarely on the shoulders of fifth round rookie Shadur Sanders. There's no other choice. Now, I'm
Call
kidding,
him
of
out.
course.
Call him out.
He looked great this weekend in a loss to the Titans, who had one win prior to this week. So, how much do we really factor that in? I don't know. But why are the Browns out? Well, they're just bad and they're a mess. They've had how many different, 3 or 4 starting quarterbacks this year? They've had just they've just been like the laughing stock of football, along with another team we're going to talk about soon, for basically our entire lives. And this year was no different. They just never were able to get things going. Neither rookie quarterback really showed enough to get them super excited, although I know people are excited about what Shadur Sanders was able to do this past weekend. But yeah, I mean, the Browns are just, they just a team without a quarterback that really, really could use a quarterback, because there are bright spots. So, in the, looking forward to section, I mean, you have Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is an amazing player. You signed him up for a long-term contract last year, I believe, right? Was that just last season? But after, he was like, I want to leave. I want to go to a team that's better. Turns out, put enough zeros on a check, and you can work through these things. But I don't think this was the year he would have hoped for. You got Deshaun Watson. Whatever's going on with him, that's coming back. He's on a huge contract. You've got these 2 young quarterbacks. What are you going to do with both of them? There's a lot to figure out with this Browns team, and I don't envy the person that is making these decisions. And look, again, I'm sorry to be so negative and there's something to look forward to, but like, you're a Browns fan and you're listening to this, you know what it's like. You know better than any of us know that you don't really have much to look forward to. So, maybe you can be optimistic about the passage of time and things have to get better at some point. But yeah, this is a tough scene, and I guess root for the individual and root against teams. I guess that's your path forward.
Yeah, where are we, before we leave the Browns, where are we at on Myles Garrett sack record watch? Are we getting close here?
He needs 1 a game for the last 4, and he will get 23. He currently sits at 19. He had that crazy stretch, and then he's slowed down to a 1 a game average the last couple, to sit at 19 going into this week. So 4 games left. If he was to, get a sack a game, he would finish at 23, set the record.
So the record's 22.
22 and a half.
I think.
22 and a half.
Yeah, 22 and a half. TJ Watt and Michael Strahan, I believe. I believe it was a tied record, if I'm not mistaken.
I'd love to see him do it in the next 3 games, because then we can get rid of the silly asterisk of well, it was an extra game season.
Yes. Yes,
anyway.
that would be nice. Okay. But okay, so for Browns fans, maybe something to look forward to, right? Even right now, even this year. Maybe you don't have to wait until next year to celebrate a little something. So we'll see how that goes. We'll keep an eye on that. But for now, it is goodbye to the Browns as a whole. We may not talk about them very much over the next few weeks as their season winds down because it is already over for them. But if they do anything crazy, who knows? All right, so last team we're going to talk about here, we have to say goodbye to this week, is the New York Jets. So Matt, give us the down low on why the Jets are out.
Yeah, I mean, the haha answer I threw in is the cause of death is the Johnson and Johnson company. Woody Johnson, I think, is just like a cancer to the culture of his own team. He gives a lot of similar energy to that of like, is it David Tapper, the guy who owns the Panthers, or Jerry Jones? Like, he's just one of these owners who's really involved and not in like a fun or healthy way. At least Jerry Jones, I, I'm not going to defend Jerry Jones on the podcast. Woody Johnson has come out and kind of just made like a fool of himself. He came out and spoke, poorly about Justin Fields in the middle of a season. Like that's the guy you just went out and signed this offseason, and he was, talking shit on him. It's just a bad look all in all. I think Aaron Glenn, transitioning to what they have to look forward to, I think Aaron Glenn still has what it takes to be a success in New York. Similarly to like, Rex Ryan, like Rex was a guy who absolutely loved the Jets and he loved his team and he loved being a part of the process. Aaron Glenn played for the Jets, and Aaron Glenn clearly he chose the Jets over other opportunities. And so he has the passion and he has the love. He has what it takes to, I think, endure the shit you take when you are a coach in New York and when you have the ownership that you have. Um, but it's going to take time. I mean, this is a roster that has some good pieces. This is a roster that I think is more competitive than what they show week in and week out. They need to figure out something on offense. I don't know if it's the quarterback's, fault fully. I will admit I'm probably going to be a Fields stan until he's gone. Um, but at the end of the day, like it wasn't happening this year. The offense looked anemic as ever. The defense was not as dominant as it used to be. They traded away, Sauce Gardner, even though, you know, the defense still wasn't like that dominant with him. But they trade away Sauce. So maybe, with all these picks, they'll be able to go out. There's all the talk right now that they're going to try and trade up to the first pick if they don't get it. To take their quarterback of the future, whether that's Ty Simpson, whether that's Fernando Mendoza. I don't know who that's going to be. But at the end of the day, this year it was just kind of sloppy. Like it was just a team that was sloppy. They were one of the most penalized, if not the most penalized teams in football. Owners talking shit on players midseason. It, you know, it is what it is. Some teams can't do that 1 year turnaround. This was Aaron Glenn's first year, so if you're a Jets fan, at least you have that to look forward to. Is you got a lot of picks. You have a newer, younger regime. Maybe if you're looking at it big picture, you got a chance.
Yeah, another one of those fan bases that is used to this, right? They've been in this
Yeah.
conversation at this time of the year, a lot of years running now. So, best of luck to them as they try to make some sense out of this season. But for now, it is goodbye to the Jets. All right, so that'll wrap up our In Memoriam segment for this week. Shout out to you if you are a fan of one of those teams. Our apologies, especially coming from us. I mean, this is punching down if it ever existed. But, we got to do it. So, next thing I want to talk about, we'll talk about this very briefly. Someone who has come back from the dead, Philip Rivers. It happened in a whirlwind. Daniel Jones got hurt on Sunday in that game, the loss against the Jaguars. The Colts are still very much in it in their division. The Jaguars now lead it, but only by a game or two if you count the fact that they beat the Colts. But they lead that division now, but the Colts are still very much in it. So it was either time to make a move at quarterback or accept that you got kind of lucky with some things working in your favor this year, and it's not your year and no big deal. Well, they opted for the former. They made a move, and the move they made was to sign Philip Rivers to their practice squad, which they did today, as we're recording this. So, look, this is very odd, very strange, to say the least. But I want to quickly just make a case for and against this working for them to accomplish the goal, which is to get them to the playoffs. They want to get to the playoffs, and let's make a case for and against that working. So Matt, give me the plus here, and then Drew, give me the case against this working. So Matt, start with you. Why does this work and get the Colts to the playoffs?
Yeah, the best positive argument you can make for this is something I saw. This is the offense that Philip Rivers has been a part of and has run and is knowledgeable of. The mental side of the game will still absolutely be there for a guy like Philip Rivers, which we've seen before. And when I say seen before, we've seen once from a guy this age, where even when the physical tools start to fall off, if the mental is good enough, sometimes you can still compete. Um, this apparently was the scheme that he was running for his high school. Him and Shane Steichen had weekly meetings where they would call and watch film together because he wanted to run the offense that Shane Steichen was running for his son Gunner's, high school football team. So like the actual offense he's going to understand. Philip Rivers, as we know, is a gritty, gutsy dude. Like he's gonna put it on the line. Um, but when you're 44, when you're actively a grandfather, like it's and that's not me, that's not hyperbole. He has a grandchild. It's it's hard for me to argue and say like, yeah, this fixes it, man. I was on board with the Tyler Warren Wildcat offense, but he's going to be comfortable in the scheme at the end of the day. If he has anything but a noodle arm, they've got some talented, receiving options, and maybe he can just be one of those elite quick option, passers where it's like, hey, it's hike, it's 2, 3 steps, hitch, deliver. Like he's not taking sacks, he's not taking hits. We know they have a run game that he can lean on. Um, I mean, he needs to give them the Joe Flacco experience, right? Where it's like he's doing enough that the run game can open up and the offense can kind of get back to like a balance. Because I think that's just the fear of anything with Daniel Jones going down and them not really having a backup that's viable is everyone knows where the ball's going right now. It's going to Jonathan Taylor. Both Philip Rivers, if he can at least make Tyler Warren viable, if he could make Pittman, Pierce, or Josh Downs viable, like just make one or two of those guys viable in the pass game, then I think this offense can still put up some points. Maybe
All
we'll
right.
see.
So that's how it could work. Drew, why doesn't this work?
Well, thank you for giving me the easy one. I mean, this is just absolutely so crazy. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this before. Yeah, when it was like being rumored, it's like, wow, Philip Rivers, he hasn't played in forever. And then when I found out when the last time he played was, it was still like longer ago than I thought. He hasn't played since the 2020 season.
Yeah.
Um, that's 5 years ago. Like that's crazy. And
He was
he
on this year's Hall of Fame ballot.
right, yeah, like that's oh my gosh. So I mean, Philip Rivers. Look, I saw him for years and years with the Chargers. Never liked him because I was not a Chargers fan. He seems like a cool guy in general, a guy you want to root for. Look, the Colts had no choice but to try something. I mean, both their quarterbacks are hurt. They have already invested so much into this season. They traded 2 firsts, right, for Sauce Gardner. Like they have no choice but to go all in. They've already gone all in, and so it's like what you can't you don't have a first round pick, so you can't even think like, well, I got to get at least maybe a decent first round pick. No, you have to go for it. It won't work because the Colts have been struggling for the last 5 weeks basically They haven't won in 3 straight games. They're kind of falling apart before our eyes. Philip Rivers, like I said, hasn't played in 5 years. Whatever he gives you, it's not going to be peak Philip Rivers. I if I'm wrong, I will be thrilled to watch some Philip Rivers highlights at 44 years old, having not played in that long. Um, and then here's the real reason why it won't work. Because even if they had Daniel Jones, they've got the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Jaguars again, and the Texans on their schedule, the red hot Texans. Um,
Uh,
they might not have won again anyways. Like there's a
yeah.
chance that the best version of this Colts team goes 0-4 in these next 4 weeks. This version of the Colts team, I'm sorry, there's just no way. Like the Jaguars just totally destroyed you. Granted, the next time will be in Indianapolis, but still, you don't have a ton of faith in that. We know the Seahawks. We talk about them every week on this show. We know they are a better team than the Colts. They should win. The 49ers have been annoyingly keeping up with your guys' teams. They can definitely beat the Colts. And then the Texans, the last week of the season,
Uh,
in Houston, the Texans, who, like I said, have been red hot, their defense has been playing out of their minds. That could be for the Texans. We'll see how everything plays out. That could be like for the playoff spot. And if that's the case, then I'm sorry, Colts fans. I'm kind of like, as a football fan, hoping we see some like Philip Rivers magic and they do sneak into the playoffs because I think that would be hilarious. And I also would not feel very threatened by them in the AFC playoffs. Um, but it's just not going to happen. Like, I'm sorry. The Colts season is cooked. Um, it's crazy to say that after they were 7-1 and the 1 seed in the AFC, but they probably won't win another game. And they've already lost 3 in a row at this point.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
not good, not a
Yeah.
great end of the season for the Colts.
No, yeah. The sky is falling over there for sure. Whatever you want to say, whatever metaphor you want to use, that's what's happening over there. No question. That Texans game at the end of the year, it just there's a scene in the sixth Rocky movie where he's trying to come back, right, and fight, and he's like 60 or something, and he goes and the boxing commission denies him his like they're like, we can't in good conscience approve you to be a boxer, a professional boxer. You're crazy. So someone needs to step in before that Texans game and be like, in good conscience, we cannot allow you to send Philip Rivers out there against this defensive line. He will die.
He has kids to think about.
It's
He has
not
so
good.
many.
It
He has
will
his own
not be
football
good.
team
So
of kids.
many kids to think about.
It will not be good. But we'll see how it happens. Okay, so next thing we want to talk about, next topic for today's show, I wanted you guys to pull some under the radar teams and players for us because we are at the point of the year where the good teams are who like are the good teams are the good teams, the bad teams are the bad teams. We kind of know who everyone is, but let's take a look at the season as a whole picture and say who was kind of, you know, not in our awareness really toward the beginning and maybe even the middle of the season. And now as we're coming up toward the home stretch, last month of the year, who's putting us on notice here a little bit. So um, we'll talk about our teams first. So Matt, go ahead and give us a team that has your attention as of the end of week 14 here, going into week 15.
Yeah, I'm going to speak from personal experience. I think the team that has my attention this year that is playing, the way I justify this is it's the team that's playing the farthest above what my personal expectations for them were. Um, and for me, I think that team's the Carolina Panthers. This was a team that I expected to really be a bottom feeder of the league and their division. And it's not just because they beat us last week, but we saw them go out and do 30-0 against the Falcons, and we saw them put the Bills on upset watch, and they've really played up to the competition this year. Um, Bryce Young has not been spectacular, but he's been good. Tet McMillan looks like an offensive rookie of the year this year. Their defense has been good-ish despite, trading and sending off a lot of their best players. Um, Dave Canales has really like put a team together here. Um, and yeah, I think, the league does need to be on notice. And everyone just assumed that I think that the Buccaneers would kind of cakewalk this division. And that's not the case. I mean, the Panthers are right there. The Falcons have predictably been hot and cold, like we talked about. They've now been eliminated, but the Panthers are right there. And the Bucks just lost to the Saints. Like, it's one of those things. The Bucks, who we thought were going to be this great team, this great offense, and they have all these weapons, and they're about to get Mike Evans back, but it's I think the NFC South is more open than people realize. It's more open than I'd realized. And I think the Panthers might be the closest team to the top. Like at this point, with what they've done to the Falcons, they swept them this year. Do we not believe, and that was with Michael Penix, by the way, not, injured Falcons. Do we not think that the Panthers are legitimately the second best and close to being the best team in the NFC South? It's hard to say because the Bucks seem to play down to competition. The Panthers play up, and they're pretty much neck and neck coming down to the end of the season here. So, yeah, my pick for the team has got to be the Panthers. They have really shocked me, considering I believe I picked them. I picked the Saints to be the worst team, but I thought the Panthers were going to be like pretty close to the bottom.
Yeah. So, I mean, what we're saying is when it comes to pounding, we should keep pounding, is what we're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Keep it
we need to keep on pounding.
keep it going. Okay, Drew, give us a team that has your attention as of the coming up on week 15 here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a team a little different direction than Matt because this is not a team that has exceeded expectations, or maybe they have to some extent, but like they didn't have low expectations coming into the year. But I think they've kind of gotten lost in the shuffle of everything, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers. There's been a ton of talk, rightfully so, about the Chiefs and their fall off this year. And are they going to miss the playoffs? Could this dynasty come to an end like this? And not a lot of talk about why it is that the Chiefs are on the outside looking in right now, and there are two teams in their own division above them. And of course, on this show, we give the Broncos their due. But the Chargers have slowly but surely just been, one of the better teams in football. And I know Matt has certainly given them their flowers, but I don't see a lot of talk about them when I watch the highlight shows and the breakdowns and the playoff picture and stuff. They're obviously there, they're right in the picture, but I just don't hear a ton of people talking about them. And I think they really in a year where, especially in the AFC, things are wide open. We could have a playoff scenario with no Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson, and no Patrick Mahomes. So the only guy that we really, have seen on these bigger stages is Josh Allen, and we know how we feel about the Bills, but this is a wide open year for the AFC, and if Justin Herbert can step up and be the best version of Justin Herbert, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football, no doubt. And this defense is so good, and Harbaugh has been to a Super Bowl before, and there's a lot of things to like about this Chargers team right now. And the division is not out of reach for them either. The Broncos haven't lost in quite a while, but the way things shake out, we could be talking about the Chargers AFC West champs, and it doesn't seem like that conversation is really out there right now.
100%. I mean, how tough was Justin Herbert on Monday Night Football? I mean, that was crazy. Knowing what he was going through over the course of the week, and the performance he put together, he just gutted the team to the win. I mean, it was really, really a display of an underrated quality of his, which I think is his toughness. He really goes out there, takes hits. This offensive line is injured, and he is under a lot of pressure because of it, and he just takes it and keeps going. and keeps putting together solid outings. So good for him. Good for the Chargers. I think you're right on there. Okay, so let's move on to a player that has your attention now, and let's go back to Matt. So which player is one that you believe has made a name for themselves right now?
This one is fully of recency bias, but I've seen some startling numbers in regards to this guy. Um, I'm gonna go with Michael Wilson, the receiver for the Cardinals. I saw some joke tweets, especially after the Rams game, where people were saying, like their wide receiver rankings for the the current state of the NFL. Number one is Michael Wilson without Marvin Harrison Jr. on the field. All these different guys, it's like 85 is Michael Wilson with Marvin Harrison Jr. on the field. It's this crazy thing where if you took out the games without Marvin Harrison or with Marvin Harrison, and it was just his sample size of him as the wide receiver one, he would be on pace for like 200 catches, 2,500 yards, and like 40 touchdowns. Like it's like this like ungodly pace, and I think it's only like 2 or 3 games that he's had this, but
About
it's
that,
one of
yeah.
those things. I mean, yeah, and it's one of those crazy things where they preach, in football all the time. It's the next man up mentality, and he's proving that to a T. Like he is stepping up into the role of the guy who was drafted to be the savior of the Cardinals offense, and he's kind of acting in that way. Um, so I mean, yeah, I think he's absolutely making a name for himself. I think he's establishing himself. We need to see him be able to perform with Marvin still on the field. I think that is a bit concerning of like why doesn't it work when he's on the field with you? But dude, watching it firsthand, this was our first game against the Cardinals this year. Watching that firsthand was something else. Like that guy looks good. He looks like a really, really good receiver. Um, and yeah, those numbers just got me, man. Like anytime you see receivers on pace for 200 yards, I don't care if it's after 2 games. Those 2 games must have been amazing.
Yeah, they have been amazing. I know this because he was Marvin Harrison Jr. went down and he came up the one week that I had like a solid waiver priority in our league where I could get somebody, and I got him. And he is 100% the reason why I'm in the playoffs right now because after I added him, he had 26 points, 16 and a half points, and then he had a week where he had 5, and then this last week he had 32 points in our half points per reception league. So he is going crazy. And so, yeah, no question about that. He has been someone who's proven that if he has to be the guy, he can be the guy. And so maybe it inspires the Cardinals to take a serious look at their quarterback situation and get a real one in there. Because if so, they have weapons on weapons on weapons. And I'm assuming there's going to be some coaching turnover over there. So get a good play caller in there. Who knows what's possible? Okay, so I mean, we're going to keep it in Arizona here because Drew has a player for us as well. So let's hear it for your player that you want to bring up, who has your attention for this week.
Yeah, it's funny that Matt and I both ended up picking Cardinals because the Cardinals were not a super inspiring team this year. But I'm going with Trey McBride, and my reasoning is because I know he's like a pretty notable player, but I went to like the leaderboards, the way I approached this, and just kind of was like, okay, what name am I like? What's the first name I see on here where I'm like, oh wow. And I went to like the receiving leaderboards, and for both yards and touchdowns, he's like top 5. Like he is up there, and this includes receivers and everything. So easily the best tight end. And um, if you're like a diehard fantasy player, I'm sure you knew that and everything. But in general, like I just don't. We've talked a lot about this being like not the best year for tight ends in general, but he's out there putting in the work, and on a team that, like we said, is not very inspiring, on a team that benched their quarterback, and he's still out there doing it. It hasn't really mattered, and so for me, he is a player that like I think just deserves more flowers than what he's been getting. Holding it down there in the desert. And it could be on me. It could be that I'm the one not giving him his proper due, but that's what I'm trying to correct right now. Um, Trey McBride, man, like another great year. So
Yeah,
good for him.
yeah.
Absolutely. He's one of my favorite. Like if I had to pick maybe a favorite player on an NFC West rival, I think I might pick him. And so I think that he's one of those that will continue to be a big contributor for the Cardinals. Hopefully for a few more years for them, trying to get them to some kind of contention. For goodness sake, in at least in their division, these skill players are too good to suffer any longer. So, like I said, let's get some play calling turnover and get somebody real in there. It doesn't look like uh, Mike McDaniel is going to be fired after all, so there goes that dream. But I think ultimately they just got to get a better play caller in there. They got to get serious about quarterback, and we'll see what that looks like for the Cardinals in the offseason. But yeah, this is another team kind of like the Falcons. They don't have the running back per se. It just depends on how you feel about you know uh, what's his name who got hurt. But they don't have the running back per se like the Falcons do, but they have all the other skill positions locked up and in spades. So they should get real. So if you're going to take anything away, Cardinals, get real. All right. So great work there. Enjoyed giving some shine to some teams and players that maybe haven't gotten a ton of attention but are playing really, really well. So good stuff. Speaking of teams that are playing well, we've got Fan Corner. And once again, we are celebrating a 3-0 week in Fan Corner. Good for us. We're awesome. Everyone loves us. We're great. And let's start with the Rams and what's going on in Rams land. How was Week 14 in LA?
Week 14 was delightful, lovely, spectacular, wonderful, all the things. We went full belt to ass on the Cardinals. We were so dominant. We pulled all of our meaningful starters in the third quarter. We got a full quarter watching Jimmy G throw to, what's his name? Kamunta Mumpfield. Like we got a full Sean McVay special against the Cardinals. Sean McVay like genuinely hates the Cardinals. There's something about it, but he pretty consistently puts belt to ass on the Cardinals. So that was great, and it's put us in a position now, as is with I believe Drew's team as well. But it puts us in a position that if we win this week, we are in position to clinch a playoff spot. We would be amongst the first team or first teams, plural, to clinch this weekend if we win. But it feels good. It's definitely we needed this after last week's loss to the Panthers, especially with the Seahawks still continuing to just win games and continue winning games. Um, we play them in 2 weeks. We play you guys in 2 weeks, and I think the division comes down to that game. Like whoever wins that game, I do think takes the division because at this point it's still 50-50. Um, and it's gonna be a close one. So overall though, this week can't complain. Puka Nakua broke the all-time record for single game PFF grade. He had by PFF metrics the best wide receiver game of all time, breaking a game that Julio Jones set in I believe 2018. It was like a 98.7 grade or something like that. Uh, the stat was Matthew Stafford was 6 for 6 throwing the ball downfield, meaning 15 air yards or more. All six of those were completions to Puka Nakua for 2 touchdowns, 157 yards. It was just a game. Like we were just having a game. Our running backs both dominated. Corum had, I think, 12 carries for 123 yards. Uh, Kyron Williams had another, handful more. I think he had like 12 or 14 carries for like 83 Running backs had 3 touchdowns. First time the Rams have had 3 rushing and passing touchdowns in a game since Greatest Show on Turf did it. I mean, just one of those games where it's like start to finish dominance, just pure dominance. So go Rams, man! Another great week. Still in first place as of right now, but this is going to be a tough stretch for us, especially next two. We got Detroit, and then straight into Seattle. Those are 2 teams that play us pretty tough.
Yep, no question. It'll be fun to watch the Lions and the Rams this week. I'll be tuned in for sure, I think. So, okay, let's talk about the Broncos. How was week 14 in Denver?
Yeah, pretty uneventful game overall against the Raiders. We won rather easily, but because the Raiders drove down and kicked the last second field goal, it was still actually a 1-score win. So add that to the total. There's been a lot of those.
Yep, one of those.
But this was, I didn't, to be honest, I looked past this game. I know the Raiders played us close before. I didn't think the Raiders were going to beat the Broncos. And they certainly didn't. And, it's so funny. 2 of the 4, so half of the AFC West teams have relocated in recent years. And it makes it so like Broncos fans are like half or more of their road games, like the Raiders and the Chargers both just don't really get home games to the same degree that every other team in football does.
True.
But that's besides my point. The season, as it were, kind of starts this week for us. So as good as everything has been going, 10 straight wins. We are 11-2 overall. Our 2 losses were very winnable games. That's all fine and good. But at the end of the day, we still, we need to take care of business. A win this week or even a loss and some other, results elsewhere results in the Broncos being in the playoffs. That's great. I'm happy for that. They should be in the playoffs at this point, so that's good. I'm not going to be like super stoked on a playoff berth. I'm going to be looking for other things like winning our division and potentially even being the 1 seed in the AFC, which is where we sit right now. But it gets really tough because this week we have the Packers, then the Jaguars, then the Chiefs, who will be fighting for their lives, and then the Chargers, who might be fighting us for the division. So 4 playoff teams in 4 weeks. 3 of them are in the AFC, so there's implications there, and 2 of them are in our division. So it does get tough, and the Broncos have played tough all year. So there's not a single game here where I think, that's not going to be good. We're gonna lose. We could lose any of them. We could also win any of them. So it's really up in the air. A lot can happen. I'm excited to be back in the playoffs. I'm hoping that it can be more than a one and done like last year. And winning these games coming up will do a lot towards making me feel more hopeful about that in both what I'd be seeing from the team, taking care of business against playoff teams, and also what it would mean, which is potentially a bye and home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs. Either way, I want to see it. Packers will be a real good test. So we've done quite well against the NFC this year, right? 4-0, I believe, yeah, because we played the whole NFC East and swept them. So now we have our random other NFC team that we play because they added a game to the schedule. That'll be the Packers. Kind of a tough draw. They've been really good this year, but hopefully we can take care of business.
Right on, right on. Yeah, some exciting games on that schedule. I'll probably want to tune in for a great bit of them. So it'll be fun to see how the Broncos fare. All right, so let's end fan corner with a little Seahawk stuff. Look, as I mentioned last week, this was a tune-up opportunity, one more, for the season, and a season that's been seemingly full of them for Seattle. They took advantage. they were able to get Sam Darnold back right after he hasn't really looked the same since the Rams loss. He got back to slinging it, which is great. Jackson Smith and Jigba got back after being almost shut out in the Vikings game. He had another couple touchdowns and almost another 100 yards receiving. So always good to see that. I wish that stuff didn't really come at the expense of the run game like it did against the Falcons. But if a team wins by, almost 30 points, it is what it is. It doesn't matter how they do it. Just go ahead and do it. I do very much like the fact that the offense got back in the end zone this week as well. It just all came together for the Seattle Seahawks as a whole this week. They scored 37 points without the defense having to score a touchdown, which is great. And I like to see that. So hopefully Sam's got his confidence back and he can start getting back to first half of the year where he was just really throwing it all over the field, mostly to Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. But hopefully, some other guys can get involved. We saw Rashid Shaheed pay off a little bit. He returned a kickoff for a touchdown to start the second half. That was great. And it's just one of those things where I didn't watch the game. I took a little bit of a football break this week, but I was keeping up a little bit. And the first half, the score was 6-6 going into the halftime. And I was like, okay, well, that seems pretty on par with what's been going on since the Rams lost. Like, they have not been scoring a lot on offense. I'm not surprised the defense is playing well. Then I saw Rashid Shaheed took it back for a touchdown to start the second half, and then the defense turned the Falcons over on their first drive of the second half. And so I'm like, okay, well, it's over now. Like, there's no coming back for the Falcons now, because once the defense gets hot, it's over for you. I'm constantly in awe of Mike Macdonald and what he's able to do with this defense. He is everything that he was promised to be from that perspective. He knows his game breakers and how to put them in positions to break games. The stat I will share on that is that there have been 2 players in NFL history who have ever had in one single game a tackle for loss, a sack, an interception, and a blocked field goal. Those players are Nick Emmanwori for the Seahawks this week, week 14, and Leonard Williams for the Seahawks last year. And so it just goes to show you that when Mike Macdonald identifies somebody as someone who can, ruin a game for an opposing team, he will put that player in the position to ruin the game as much as possible. And those players usually reward him for that. So, enjoying suffocating the snot out of teams. And this week we might see Phillip Rivers. I wouldn't be surprised because of the reasons that Matt mentioned about how familiar he is already with the offense and what goes on with it. That's the hurdle, right? Like, physically, he's probably as ready as he's going to be. He's not going to get in better shape, I don't think. And so the real part is he going to know the playbook well enough? He might. And so we might see him. But it doesn't matter who starts at quarterback. The Colts do not. I mean, the only chance the Colts have is if their running game goes berserk. And that is the matchup to watch. If you're going to be watching anything in the Seahawks-Colts game, the Seahawks have not allowed a 100-yard rusher in 22 straight games. They are going up against Jonathan Taylor this week, who will probably get north of 35 touches. And so we'll see if he can break that streak or if the Seahawks can hold on. So I'm looking forward to watching that. All right, so let's move on now to our locked in segment and make some predictions for week 15, as well as talk about our predictions from last week. So we'll start with Drew. So last week, talk about your prediction there and then give us one for this week.
Yeah, last week I predicted that the Jaguars would beat the Colts so badly that we wonder why we ever thought Indianapolis was the contender of the AFC South. And you know what? That kind of happened. And part of it is Daniel Jones getting hurt and, now the Colts have to sign Phillip Rivers off of his couch. But part of it is the Jaguars just have been playing better. And, throw the Texans in there as well. But, yeah, I'm going to call this one a win. And we've already talked about the Colts. Like, this, I don't like the direction they're headed. It's a bummer. If you're a Colts fan, real bummer. But this week, I'm going to make a different prediction. I wrote in the notes, ties remain tied. And what I mean by that is in the NFC right now, we have three divisions that's either tied at the top or like essentially tied at the top. We have the NFC North, where the Packers are 9-3-1 and the Bears are 9-4. In the NFC South, the Buccaneers and the Panthers are both 7-6, and then in the NFC West, the what are these teams? The Rams and Seahawks. I'm not really familiar with them, but they're both 10-3. Um, so I think that the results of this weekend's games, win or loss, whatever it is, these teams will all still be tied with each other. We are not going to get any more clarified of an NFC playoff picture this weekend. Now, I'm not going to tell you like which teams are going to win which games and which teams are going to lose. I just am telling you if the Rams lose, that means also the Seahawks do, and vice versa. If the Bucks win, the Panthers are also going to win. So we'll see how this plays out, but I really think this is a year where we're not going to know who's really in the playoffs until very late, and this is going to be another week kind of pushing in that direction.
Nice.
Okay.
Another good one.
Okay.
Another good one. Well, we'll see how that turns out. I think that would be just spectacular. I hope it's the win side. I'll just say that. Hope it's the win side. But okay, Matt. So talk us through your prediction from last week and give us your prediction for this week as well.
Yeah, so last week was the week that I went kind of sports buddy with it, and I was like, okay, Broncos are going to win their game. George Pickens is going to get 75 yards, Jahmyr Gibbs 75, Puka 75, 80 Mitchell 75, and Stafford's going to have 3 touchdowns. I was wrong. My apologies. Yeah, so I'm moving off that because I wasted money on that, so I'm not going to sports bet anymore.
What didn't hit for you?
George Pickens did not have 75 yards in that game, and Jahmyr Gibbs got 75 yards of the wrong stat.
I see.
Yeah, everything else hit. So 3 out of 5, which, if you're 4 out of 5, which if you're counting 4 out of 6. Wow.
Never
Yeah,
gamble.
maybe don't trust me with anything math or sports money or whatever. Yeah, never gamble unless you're watching this and you're like underdog or something. But anyway, this week my bold prediction, I'm going for it. Phillip Rivers is going to throw for 4 touchdowns in his NFL re-debut, and soon after, at least before the Super Bowl, he will announce a new pregnancy. That is my prediction. So we'll have to check back in on this one in a little bit, but at least that first half, I see it coming. He's gonna have the craziest game ever, and he might suck after that. But that opening week, man, I don't even know who he's playing, but that opening week is gonna be something of a beauty.
Right. So whenever his
I have a
re-debut
question.
hits, yeah, it'll happen for him.
Yeah, whenever he plays.
I have a question. How many of the remaining 4 games on the schedule, how many do the Colts have to win with Phillip Rivers as quarterback for him to get comeback player of the year?
Exactly 1.
I think if he goes 0-4, then they can't give it to him. But if they win even 1 game after taking 5 years off, like,
because here's the thing.
man.
Here's the thing. Who are they going to give it to, right? They're going to be like, oh, maybe it's like Dak Prescott this year. He was bad, and I hate that comeback player of the year is for someone who
He was hurt
bad.
last year too, wasn't he not?
Wow. Not like in the way that I would want for a comeback player. But when you tell me, tell me that this man, this grandfather, is on this year's Hall of Fame ballot as a finalist, and he came back to win a game, yeah, that's my comeback player of the year, without a doubt.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I'm agreeing. That would be an incredible feat,
Right?
especially
It has to
considering
be.
considering the defense is on the schedule, it would be an incredible feat. Okay,
If
so
imagine
yeah,
too, imagine the narratives if he gets to playoffs. Imagine if he gets to playoffs, dude. Imagine Philip Rivers playing playoff football. Like, holy crap.
It's crazy.
I can't and I
Ugh.
won't be able to imagine it until and it's impossible to. Like until I have to see it. I must see to believe. Um, but okay, so let's move on to our final segment for our NFL episode this week, which is, of course, Dingers and Stingers. This is the segment where you guys will give us one good thing and one bad thing each from the world of sports for the week. So let us start with Matt and give us your stinger for the week. Please, let's start with the bad.
Yeah, my stinger, a little off topic, going baseball, but it's these Padres rumors. Go and watch our baseball episode if it's already up. If not, it'll be coming out soon. But the Padres have been linked in so many rumors over the past few days. And at the end of our baseball recording, I saw some more that were concerning at best. It's it is the double-edged sword of having a GM like AJ Preller, who is willing to wheel and deal anyone and anything at any time. You just can't have any attachments to any entity that is other than the team, right? Like it's kind of proving to me being a fan of an AJ Preller team means I need to be a fan of the team, not the players on the team. Um, which is scary to think about. There's a few guys on that team who I would be really crushed if they were to be traded, and it's really going to test this loyalty for me because, for those of you that don't know my background, I'm a more recent fan of the Padres after my previous team broke my heart, and I picked them purely on the basis of I thought Fernando Tatis was super sick, and he had just been re-signed, and I was like, great, there's a guy I can lock in with, for the next foreseeable future. Um, yeah, so I don't like the rumors I'm seeing, but gotta trust the process, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, no question. The things that are out there at this time of year are always crazy. And even if one or two of them happens, that'll be a crazy off season. So, best of luck to Padres fans out there for the next couple of weeks trying to make it through. All right, Drew, give us your stinger for the week before we head to the good.
Yeah, my stinger comes also from the world of baseball. It's something that we didn't actually get to in our baseball episode, but check it out anyway. Um, and it was the Hall of Fame voting results for the Veterans Committee, I believe they call it. I have no problem with Jeff Kent being in the Hall of Fame. Congrats to him. I think overall, probably a deserving candidate. My problem was more about what happened to a few guys who did not get the nod, and not only didn't get the nod, they got below the 5 vote threshold, so they're not eligible for the next 2 rounds of this committee's kind of voting thing. And the big names on that list were Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. And look, I'm not going to give you, the whole reason why I think they should be in the Hall of Fame, and I don't want to hear why they shouldn't because I know all that. What I think the bummer is that baseball has created a system where there's not going to be a discussion about it. Like it's just I don't foresee it in the way the Hall of Fame is currently constructed, how you get voted in and everything. They already missed their shot on the writers' ballot. So now they have to rely on these committees. I just don't think either of them will ever get into the Hall of Fame, and I just think that's a huge bummer for two of the greatest players that baseball has ever seen. And when other guys have made it into the Hall who either have a way less impressive career or also have some questionable, moral stains on their cases as well. It's just too bad that these two guys are the ones that get um, really punished by it when they are two of the best we've ever seen. So that's a bummer. Um, maybe someday I can hold out hope for a different world, but I just kind of don't think it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, two of the most notable, famous players in the sports history having this kind of an uphill climb to the Hall of Fame. It's just kind of a bummer, no question. But okay, let's end with the good here. Let's bounce back to Matt and let's get your dinger for the week, please.
Yeah, my dinger was something that brought me just such deep joy. For those of you who have been along with the ride here for the past year or so, you've heard us mention this guy. It's our good friend Elijah. Maybe wink, wink, future guest on the pod at some point.
Yes,
Our in-house Carolina Panthers fan, the man with the hottest takes, the worst takes. One of our good friends, part of our fantasy league. Um, he is the first seed in our fantasy football league this year. Um, somehow, somehow.
seems
And
really good.
I had the scenario, I was projected to lose by so much. Like going into the week, I had like a 30% chance to win according to Sleeper. And, I was like so positive. I was like, you know what? Well, I clinched a playoff spot. I'll be like the fifth or the sixth seed. I'll be something, in here, whatever. Um, and then, one thing led to another, and it turns out the game was really close heading into that Sunday Night Football Chiefs Texans game. Uh, I had like a 4-point lead or something like that with Rashee Rice left, and he had Jaden Higgins and Travis Kelce left. And it was this back and forth thing. Every catch at first was like a 5 to 10% swing in the win percentage. And as the game got closer and closer to the end, those percentages, every catch were just, getting bigger and bigger. And finally, he took a lead on this really great play by CJ Stroud, rolling out, hitting Jaden Higgins for a first down. And I thought, I'm doomed. This was like less than 2 minutes in the game. Rashee Rice had dropped like 3 passes up to this point, so I thought, maybe these just cooked. Um, and then the last play of the game, they decide, let's get a little bit of yardage, see if we can't set something up bigger. And what do? Just one of those cheesy little dump offs when the defenders are playing 30 yards back to my guy, Rashee Rice. And I remember I had told my wife, I was like, babe, I need 14 yards to win this game. He got me 15. He got me 15. And it swung the win percentage. I had a 3% chance to win going into that play. And I took the dub. So I end up getting the second seed, and I thought that I was going to be like one of the last seeds. He is that play clinched me a bye week in playoffs. I couldn't be happier, to be honest. This was one of my tougher seasons as a fantasy manager. It's been an uphill climb for me, but somehow I still ended up in second, which is beyond me.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Great stuff. But let's move on to Drew's dinger for the week. What do you have of on the good side of things for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna also go with something from Sunday Night Football. Last week we talked about the Chiefs losing being my dinger. I'm going back to the well, and I'm gonna get a little more specific this time. I am a Chiefs hater, but I'm also a Patrick Mahomes hater. Like I just am. Like he's so good, and
It's
I
not
just am
hard.
so tired of him, and I don't care for him. And so whenever his name comes up in the GOAT conversations, it makes me a little sick because he's on a pace where, like, all said and done in his career, he could be in the conversation. Obviously, for me, that's Tom Brady right now. And Patrick Mahomes is on the cusp of doing something that Tom Brady never did. And if the Chiefs lose, um, in the next couple weeks here, and they're eliminated from the playoffs with multiple weeks to go, Tom Brady never took a snap in a game when his team was eliminated from um, playoff contention. That
Mm,
never happened to him. And for Patrick Mahomes to be right here in the middle of this, of his run, I know he's already won 3 Super Bowls. He's already been to more than that. But like, what is he? He's like 31, 32, something like that. Like you would think there's still plenty in the tank here for the Chiefs, and for him specifically to not be able to get this team to the playoffs in a relatively weak AFC year. Like I know the teams have good records, but like I don't know, man. Like it's a bad look, and it really to me is going to be a little pebble in the not the GOAT conversation that I'll always be able to keep.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is a season full of, great, moments and anecdotes for Chiefs haters. We're getting fed very well this year. It's coming down for them. At least for this year. We're waiting to, finally bury them. We'll always wait on that. Until mathematically it's not possible. But we are trending toward a playoffs that is without them, and it is very interesting for that to be the case. They continue to lose games to teams that they cannot lose games to. Not only can they not lose games, but they can't lose a game to teams that they're trying to compete for a wild card spot with. So, which they continue to do. It's a good season to be, on the other side of Chiefs fandom for sure. But we'll see how it turns out for them. Hopefully it continues to go the way it's going. I think we're all in favor of that on this show. But until next week, we won't know the result of these games. We will talk about it when it happens, and that'll do it for this week. Our NFL episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You can like this video if you can. Subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on TikTok. You can listen to us on Spotify if you prefer audio only. We're there too. We are everywhere you want to be for the most part. So check us out on all those platforms. Let us know in the comments, what you guys think. Who's catching your eye? Which players, which teams do you think deserve some shine that haven't gotten it yet? How is your team doing? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. But until next week, thank you for hanging out. We appreciate it. And goodbye.